I've never told this to anyone in full, and honestly, I probably shouldn't be saying it now, but this thing still plays in my head like it just happened, even though it's been decades. Back in the late 80s, I was working night security at a remote cargo facility not far from a regional airstrip. It was all dirt roads, barbed wire, metal sheds, and thick woods pressing in from every side. This was before everything got modern. No cameras, no cell phones. We had radios, flashlights, and those old-school time-check whistles. You had to blow one every few hours so the mobile unit knew you hadn't fallen asleep or worse. Miss one, they'd come looking. One night, I was posted at what we called Outpost 3, right on the edge of the woods. It was dead quiet. Not even the wind was moving. Just the hum of the floodlight and the distant echo of night animals deep in the trees. I hadn't seen the patrol guys in a while, which was weird. They usually swung by with coffee, maybe a donut if you were lucky. When they finally showed, I could tell right away something was off. They looked tight, quiet. One of them asked if I'd seen or heard anything strange. I told them no, it had been boring as hell. That's when they told me what happened at Outpost 2. They found the guard there unconscious, half slumped under his own folding chair like he'd passed out mid-shift. But something didn't add up. His boot had sunk awkwardly into the dirt, like he'd twisted it, or been dragged. When he came to, he said he saw someone, a woman, crawl out of the woods. But she wasn't right. He said her face looked smooth, not like skin, more like molded plastic. Her expression was blank, until she smiled. And that smile, he said it was the most unnatural thing he'd ever seen. Then everything just went black. They thought maybe he'd hallucinated. Working nights like that can mess with your head, especially out there, so cut off from everything. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. Then a few nights later, it was me at that same outpost. And at around 2 a.m., I heard footsteps, crunching slowly over the gravel outside, steady, unhurried. I stepped out with my flashlight. At first, I didn't see anything, just trees and mist and silence. Then, she stepped into the beam. A woman, pale, wearing a black coat. She wasn't talking. She wasn't even looking at me, just walking. I called out, "Mom, this area's off limits." No response. She kept moving toward me. I backed into the shack and shut the door. My hands were shaking as I locked it. I looked out the window, and she was still walking, still closing the gap. And that's when I noticed the smile. It crept across her face slowly, like her skin had to remember how to move. Way too wide, way too slow. Then I looked down. Her feet were backwards, not twisted, not injured, just reversed, heel where the toes should be. I couldn't even scream. I just stood there paralyzed. She came right up to the glass, leaned in, and everything went black. I woke up in the medical room. They said the door had still been locked from the inside. I'd just been found unconscious, slumped over in the chair. I didn't tell them what I saw. What could I even say? But that wasn't the last time she showed up. About 2 weeks later, it happened again. This time, near the cargo checkpoint. That area's locked tight at night. No one gets in without clearance. 2 rookies were stationed there, guys who had just started. They used to joke about all the ghost stories the veterans passed around. Around 3 a.m., a woman walked in. Just walked into the waiting area and sat down without a word. The gate never buzzed. No alarms went off. At first, they thought it was some mistake. But when one of them asked if she was waiting for someone, she turned her head and said, "You called me." That's all. One of them said it felt like the air dropped 10 degrees. The other said the room started spinning. Their radios crackled with static. Then, she stood up and walked out. They followed her seconds later, but she was gone. Like, gone. No door opened. No cameras picked her up. No movement registered at the gate. They checked everything. The fences, the woods, even the back parking lot. Nothing. No prints in the dirt. No footprints. Not even a shadow on the recordings. It was like she'd never been there. They tried to laugh it off, say maybe they were overtired. But I knew better. I haven't seen her since. Not in person. But sometimes, when I'm falling asleep, I hear those same footsteps on gravel. That slow crunch, closer and closer. And I see that smile again, stretching, wide and unnatural, like her face is trying to fake what human is supposed to look like. So yeah, if you're ever working late near the woods, and you hear footsteps that don't sound quite right, don't wait to find out who it is. Just run. Hey, so this happened to me back when I was still working for this small transport company that took private clients into remote areas, people who didn't want attention, you know. Most of it was harmless. Rich hikers, photographers, that kind of thing. But this one trip, yeah, I still think about it. It started like any other booking. I was supposed to pick up a woman from a motel early in the morning. She was going off-grid for a few days, solo. No last name, just a first, Mara. I remember that. She was waiting outside when I pulled up. And, man, she was striking. Like model beautiful, but in a way that was weirdly unsettling. Pale skin, long black hair, and she smiled without blinking. Just stood there smiling while I loaded her gear into the back. We didn't talk much at first. She gave short answers, stared out the window. I figured she was just the quiet type. About an hour in, we stopped near a wooded area. She asked if we could pull over for a break, said she wanted to stretch her legs. I parked off a dirt path and stayed by the car while she wandered into the trees. 20 minutes passed, then 30. I was about to call out when she reappeared. Same smile, same calm, like nothing happened. But something felt different. As we drove deeper into the back roads, she started asking strange questions. Stuff like, do you believe there are people who don't die even after they're buried? And what would you do if something followed you home? I tried to laugh it off, but her voice never changed. She wasn't joking. Then she asked if I'd ever heard of them. Women who die with unfinished anger and come back wearing faces that aren't theirs. You can always tell who they are, she said. Their feet don't touch the ground. That stopped me cold. I didn't say anything. I just stared ahead, but something about the way she said it. I couldn't ignore the chill creeping down my back. About 30 minutes later, she told me to take a narrow turnoff, completely unmarked. It led us to this forgotten, tree-smothered path that barely looked drivable. I thought about turning back, but she leaned in and said, "We're almost there." Eventually, we reached a clearing. She told me to wait. She'd only be a few minutes. And then she was gone, into the trees again. Except, she didn't come back. I sat in that car for over 2 hours. The sun dipped lower. I honked, shouted her name, even walked a few feet into the trees. Nothing. Just as I was about to give up and call it in, I heard soft footsteps behind me. I turned. It was Mara, or something that looked like her. She was smiling again, but her hair was dripping wet like she'd just come out of a lake. Her eyes were wide, too wide, and glassy. She walked right past me toward the back seat of the car and sat down, like nothing was wrong. I got in slowly, not saying a word. We drove in silence for maybe 10 minutes before she leaned forward and asked if I believed in witches. I mumbled something like, "I don't know." And then she whispered, "You're wondering about my feet, aren't you?" I froze. She hadn't moved, but I glanced into the rearview mirror, and what I saw made my blood turn to ice. Her feet weren't touching the floor. They were hovering, just barely. I didn't move, didn't blink. I felt her eyes on me. And then she leaned forward and placed her hand on my shoulder. It was ice cold. She said, "Don't look at my feet. Look at my face. We came here to meet you." That's when I passed out. I woke up in the car, still parked in that clearing. The sun was coming up. No sign of Mara. Not a single trace. No luggage. No footsteps. Nothing. My phone was dead. The radio didn't work. And I was alone. I drove back the way I came, shaking the whole time. When I got to the nearest gas station, I checked in with my dispatcher and told them the client cancelled mid-trip. I didn't tell them what really happened. Who would believe it? I didn't sleep for 2 days. And sometimes, even now, I still dream about her voice, whispering from the back seat. "We came here to meet you.